How about now? Any better now? Oh my God. What a great way to start off the workshop. I'm your expert, everybody, on Zoom, and thanks for joining. So thank you for that. Thanks for your patience. Hello, welcome, everybody. I love your virtual backgrounds. How many of you are using a virtual background of your co-working space that's closed right now? Yeah, Amy, I see you. Very good. Thank you all for joining on such short notice. I know this is such a valuable and important topic these days around creating meaningful connection online. I'm very excited because I've been working on online gatherings for a long time. I've been running a mastermind group on Zoom for the past 4 years, and I've been a community organizer for quite some time. So I've got a lot of offline gathering kind of tricks and tips. And over the last few years, I've been developing a lot of online tips and tricks as well. And then the last couple of weeks, I've really dialed it up. And so, Jacqueline, I just saw you ask for a dial-in number. I just pasted in the info in there. I'm going to try my best to keep an eye on the chat. But what I am going to do in the course of the next hour and 10 minutes or so is first give you a little bit of background on me and all the fun things we can do with this platform. We're going to do a couple of interactive activities. So just get ready. You might have to actually get up and move around a little bit. And there's going to be one thing where you're going to actually talk to other people. Yes, so Amy, we will be recording this and you will be getting a link to the recording after the fact. So quick note on recording. This is, by the way, everything I'm saying and doing, I'm trying to also model kinds of things that you can do for your own events. So one of them is letting people know if you plan to take videos or screenshots of the meetings. And since I am doing that, I want to let you know, first of all, we're recording video. I may use this for other things. If you're not comfortable with your image, turn off your video, totally okay. And also you can rename yourself. So if you go to the participants button down below, you can pick out your name, rename yourself. And so you can anonymize yourself however you see fit. You can also add some emojis if you want to add some color to your name. Why not? Maybe even a nickname if you want. Totally a fun little space for creating connection and the renaming. And then I also want to just add a note that now is also a good time to remind people, if you have like a company account or if you're signed in under somebody else's name, it's super helpful to the host if you actually put like your name on the thing. Because otherwise I'm like, hey, can I see like Conscious Connection Studio? And like, oh, but that's not your name, that's your company name. Anyway, so we're going to be recording and you will get a link to the recording afterward. I have to say, it's so nice to see some, like this incredible mix of familiar faces, friends, people I haven't met yet, but want to. Hey, Dirk. And then people I don't know at all, and I'm looking forward to getting to know better. We're gonna have a really fun time here. Amber's asking in the chat, does Zoom only have US dial-in numbers? I love that we're getting right into like, this is a living Q&A of what's going on right now. There are international dial-in numbers, but I don't know if you can. Actually, I think it's that last link in the thing I pasted where it says find your local number, should be international dial-ins as well. Just to give you a little bit of a sense of how this is going to work. In a moment, I'm going to have us do a little interactive exercise. Then I'm going to get us into lecture, and we're going to talk about just high level how to approach online organizing, Zoom tips and tricks, and gathering, facilitating tips and tricks, ways to make your events really special and awesome. As I go, I'm going to try to demo some of the features of Zoom as we're doing it, so you can get a taste of it, and then I might talk more about it later on. One right now, really quick, that we can do is the poll feature. And I love this as a live feature that you can use in Zoom to get information from your group right in the meeting. So for example, I just posted a poll and you can vote in it right now, of the two main things we're going to be talking about, which are the things that you are most interested in spending the most time on. I created a big deck of stuff. We're probably not going to have time to go into all of it in detail. So I am literally watching your votes coming in, and all the little progress bars are dancing around like crazy. And I've got 42, 44 out of the 49 of you have voted. It's amazing. In just 30 seconds, we've got almost everyone in the room has voted. It's also a nice way to know that you're paying attention. 47 people voted in 30 seconds, and it looks like it's a pretty sweet split. There's more interest in the facilitation side, but the vast majority of you are interested in both. So I'm just going to keep that nice and balanced. But if you find that I'm rushing through something, you want me to slow down, talk about something, we can absolutely get into that. Suzanne, you asked about in the chat what's available with a meeting versus a webinar. I will talk a little bit more about that. Actually, I can talk about it right now. So a webinar, one of the primary shifts is that people can register for it through the Zoom website, and then Zoom handles the RSVPs and all of that. So for example, one of the constraints of me going through Eventbrite is that if somebody bought a ticket for this right now, unless I have an autoresponder with the link or whatever, I would have to kind of like manually add them to the event. So that's one of the main things. There are a few other things about it. They give you some more powers over how you can broadcast it. Although honestly, regular Zoom lets you broadcast to Facebook and YouTube without having to use the webinar feature. So I think it's more about the registration flow. There are some additional features around having other presenters and being able to create separate areas for them. So you could kind of separate out the other presenters in your group versus the attendees. And I think there are a couple of other features. I could look them up. But anyway, we're going to get into our lecture in just a second. But in the meantime, I want us to start with just one little interactive exercise, real quick and easy. I would like for everyone to find a vessel, whether it's a mug. A mug is probably the easy thing to look for, but it could be a cup, something personally meaningful to you. So if you've got, you can totally get up and go find it. And it's totally fine if you don't need to drink out of it, just something that's personally meaningful to you. You've got like 1 minute to do that. And while you go and do that, I am going to call on some folks to tell us about theirs. Portia, I saw you first. I've unmuted you and I've spotlit you. Tell us about what you've got there.
I have a beautiful mug here, even though it's a mug with the reason why it's meaningful is because it has beautiful sunflowers on it. And sunflower is really kind of my go-to flower of choice. Also, it's very, it signifies upliftment, positivity, looking up to the sun, not going well. So I love this mug, and it's also multifunctional, which I appreciate because, as you can see, I have all my markers in there. Can't hear you.
Oh, am I supposed to? Hi. Tony, we couldn't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, goodness gracious. I'm sorry about that. Casey, you want to show us yours?
Yes. This is a drawing I did of my husband, looking very kind of secret agent-esque and having a quizzical face.
That's a drawing you did of your husband?
Yes. And when my husband was traveling around the country, kind of doing a road trip, we made a bunch of these mugs and we hid them in our friends' cupboards, like behind other mugs. So they would just remove a mug and they'd be like, whoa, Rob's face.
That's awesome.
So you can get some judgment early in the morning from your friend.
Casey, that's amazing. And your husband is a total dreamboat. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's get one more share. I see Melissa, you got a Mickey mug. Show me your Mickey mug.
Yes. All I can say is you cannot have a bad day if you have a Mickey mug. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Melissa. All right. So let's do a quick cheers to loosen up. I know I could use a little loosening up because I'm a little bit nervous about all this. So if you hold up your mug, and does anybody want to just give us a quick little blessing while we're holding our mugs? Everybody raise your hand. Give us a blessing. Who's a good blessing giver? Dirk, I'm going to call on you. I'm going to call you out. Could you just give us a quick blessing? Anything you want?
Sure. So just wishing everybody a wonderful day. Think about all the good things that we have in our lives, and cheers to all of us. We're awesome people.
Thank you for that, Dirk. All right. Best part about this is you could drink whatever you want any time of day. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to judge. All right. So let's get into the lecture part of this. I am going to pull up a screen share, and we're going to get into some of the specifics of how this is all going to go. And okay. I'm doing a fun little thing right now, which is I am sharing a portion of my screen because sharing presentations on Zoom is a little bit tricky. So I am resizing things a little bit for you now. And okay, so you see it, you actually see it all happening right now, right? Yeah? All right, cool. I'm rearranging your windows so I can see a few of you. Cool. All right, so we're going to jump into this real quick. First of all, once again, the three things we are going to cover, the big picture, Zoom features, and the facilitation techniques. I'm going to jump right in, and then again, if there's something you want to get more into as we go, just let me know. Big picture, first of all, let's talk about what's going on. As much as I love the possibilities of this new space, online gathering is not the same as in real life. We've seen a bunch of articles about this. We know that people are dealing with Zoom burnout. We know that there's all kinds of issues with people connecting on the internet versus in real life. However, my theory is that we can still do great things with this medium. We just have to think of this in terms of the medium that it is and not try to recreate the real life equivalents of it when the real life equivalents just aren't going to be the same. And so if we think in terms of this is a new medium that gives us new powers that weren't possible before, that gives us some new space to create connection. The other thing that's important, I think, is that we want to remember that we're dealing with humans, and humans always have needs, and those needs are always going to be something that we can design gatherings for. And so if we keep in mind that the people that we're dealing with are humans who have needs, then we're going to be able to design experiences accordingly for those needs. And one of the topics that came up recently, as an example, in our Q&A last week for my mastermind group, is what do you do when you've got a community of parents who have young kids and they're already burned out on Zoom meetings? Well, we know that they're already having a hard time spending time online on screens for prolonged periods of time. So the answer is probably not to try to get them to spend another hour on Zoom. As much as we want to build community, we have to build community in a way that is amenable to the needs of the people that we're dealing with. So we want to try to understand what is going on with your people and where are they at. And if you don't know, just ask them, right? Ask them one-on-one, ask your super members or your customers, or ask them in a big group setting. But try to ascertain what's going on and then try to adapt based on that. So instead of this, what if instead there was some way that we could gather people in a way that required minimal screen time and minimal time commitment? So in this, in this example of what we talked about last week, could you give people the opportunity to pair off into one-on-one pairs and then have them just check in with each other over text message twice a day, just to see, hey, how's your day going? What did you try to get done today? How can I help? You can send it as a quick text message in the morning, send it as a text message in the evening. You could have people in a very lightweight way, just a few minutes a day, maintain a powerful and valuable connection. And if somebody needs some help with something, then they can get on the phone and they can help each other out. But just something like that, right? This is just a very simple example of we can create connection in a way that's friendly to the needs of the people that we're dealing with, right? And actually, especially now with the Zoom burnout, we have to play with the medium. one of the things I'm playing with as my next social gathering is I'm going to be doing a phone-only social gathering. I'm going to run it through Zoom, but people are going to call in on their phones, and I'm going to facilitate a whole gathering entirely on the phone just to help us not burn out on the screens. And is it going to work? I don't know, but it's going to be fun to try to play with it and see how it goes. We'll talk more about like using physical packages and using the physical space that you have around you a little bit later. But in the meantime, assuming that we're going to keep going with this kind of Zoom conversation for today, we want to start thinking of this more like a TV production, especially if you're doing a larger event. When I helped the Juicy co-working conference folks last week, we had over 100 people in the room at 4 different sessions in the day with breakout rooms of 20 people or more. Chat room is flying like crazy, all kinds of stuff going on. You need to treat it like a video production. Now, I'm doing it all myself today, so I'm being the on-camera talent. I always find it funny that the word is talent. It's like, isn't it just like seem egotistical to say that, right? Like, all right, so I'm the person in front of the camera, right? But then I'm also the director who is dealing with queuing up the screens and double checking the chat, moving the cameras, that kind of stuff. If you're doing a larger production, you might have a second person who's in charge of those things and dealing with setting up breakout rooms, things like that. Because what you don't want, the less than ideal situation, which I'm going to do my best to manage now, is that the person who's on camera broadcasting live has to also kind of, well, let me set up a meeting and be distracted by the specifics of running it, right? So you want the person on camera to be able to just do camera stuff, behind the scenes people do that. And in that case, we actually had 3rd and 4th people who were managing the chat, who were keeping it on social media and email, people who can't get into the meeting, that kind of thing. And then jumping into the breakout rooms to monitor how that's going. So the more that you can keep that in mind, and then of course, you know, accounting for video production, I think we're all getting the hang of it, but having your backdrop, having the lighting set up, that kind of thing, your posture. I actually have a light that I put right here. You can see that's kind of like helping me out a lot. And I don't think I put a screenshot of it in the presentation, but I've actually used my desktop background on my computer as an extra light. So like I normally keep a very like dark, even black desktop background on my computer. If I turn it white, I've suddenly turned my monitor into like an extra light. So depending on how your environment is. Setting up your environment, fundamental stuff, but it's easy for us to forget. Turning on Do Not Disturb on your computer, making sure that you're just not getting any, you know, messages coming in. So, of course, when is the most embarrassing text message you're ever going to receive in your life going to happen? It's going to happen when you're screen sharing, right? That's just the way that it is. So we want to just keep an eye on those kinds of things. Arranging the windows in advance. If you're going to do screen share, you want to have everything as ready to go as you can so you're not umming and ahhing in the moment. I also recommend creating a run of show. So this is an actual document that blocks out everything that you're going to do and when you're going to do it. I've got this document on my screen right now. This is what it looks like. It's a screenshot of it. And so I've got, you know, entries for things that I need to remember to do before the event starts, and then things that I'm going to do as the event is starting. And then I'm keeping an eye, as you can see on that first column, on the time. So I'm tracking that right now, and I'm seeing that, you know, am I running a little behind, or, you know, I'm pretty much right on time. So super recommend that. And I may create this as a template to share later. So just keep that in mind. How am I doing so far? Any questions in the chat or any thoughts or comments so far? We're going to be getting more into the Zoom things in a second. All right, thank you, Casey. So let's get into the Zoom features, and I'm going to run through these things. Some of you know some of these features, so hopefully I will unearth some of these things that none of you has ever seen before. The main thing to do in Zoom is just experiment, get comfortable with the different tools. Fire up a test event and just use the test event to do it, to try things out with your friends. There are certain features in Zoom that are hard for you to get to until you're actually going to use them. And when you're doing it live in an event, you don't want that to be the time when you're saying, oh my God, I didn't realize that's how this actually works. I'm going to walk you through it right now, but I highly recommend you take some time to go through all of this. Amy's asking if Zoom has good trainings or education for basic operating how-tos. They have tons of documentation, so it's all in there. Part of, I think, the challenge with Zoom is that it's a very powerful tool that does a very good job of hiding a lot of its features, so it's easy for you to just jump in. But we want to start to surface some of those advanced things, and that's part of why I'm doing this workshop. I'm going to try to reveal some of those things to you so you get a taste of them. And some of the scarier parts where things can really go wrong. We've heard about Zoom bombing. We'll talk about that. So real quick, for example, there's this feature called Pin Video and another one called Spotlight Video. And you can read the Zoom documentation about it, but it can just be really hard to parse some of these things. So just so you get a quick understanding of it, Pin Video, when you see it, when you hover over someone's name, you'll see like little 3 dots over their photo or their name in the participant screen. If you Pin Video is going to show them full screen for you, regardless of who is talking. So if other people are talking, they're going to still be full screen. However, nobody else sees that unless, except for the recording. So I'm recording this, people will see what I see. So if I pin somebody, that'll be in the recording. If I spotlight video means everybody sees that person. So when we do a dance party and I want to feature somebody on the Jumbotron, I can spotlight it and then everybody sees that person. That's what I just did for the toast. So good to know, just a handy little nuance. All right, so I want to get into screen sharing, one of the most valuable and important features, and really just quickly blowing through these things. The first screen you see is this one. Now, you know, it's easy to just skip past these screens. You've probably used this before, but it's really important to check out the different features you've got here. And again, you might not ever look at the screen except for when you're already running a meeting, so you don't really take the time to look at it. But one of the things you have to recognize is there's a lot more options here. We've got desktop 1, desktop 2, the first 2 things. I'm using 2 screens. This is going to show people everything on your desktop. I really don't like doing that. It's risky. It's risky. There's too much of a chance something else is going to pop up, or there's clutter or whatever. So I try not to use the desktop. I try to go to one of the specific windows. So for example, if I wanted to show you my run of show, in that kind of second row on the right column there, you see that there's just the window of the run of show. It's not going to be my whole screen, it's just that one window. And what's cool is I can have that window underneath other windows that I'm looking at. You guys will only see the one window I share. But then there's also this whiteboard feature on the top row, which is nice. And then in the bottom left corner, you see share computer sound. Share computer sound is super valuable if you want to play music like we did in the rating room when we just started. Just want to try to remember to like keep the volume low on whatever you're sharing. And then the next one is optimize screen share for video clip. Super useful if you're going to play a video for everybody. Otherwise, it's going to look like total garbage because it's going to optimize for screen sharing, not for video sharing. Casey asked, when you share computer sound, will your voice still be heard? It will be, but you have to get the hang of the mixing of it. Zoom doesn't give you like really granular controls over like mixing your microphone versus computer audio. So just play with it. But like, for example, when I created the waiting area for this, I had Spotify running and had the volume at like half or less than half. And that gave, I wasn't going to talk over it, but it was just kind of a polite thing to do. And then under the advanced tab, which you can see kind of in the top center there, you've got even more handy features. So just sharing the computer sound, that's great if I want to just put on some background music when we're doing dance party or whatever, that I can share the music without sharing my screen. Content from second camera is super cool, you know, for presentations, that kind of thing. But portion of screen is really versatile as well. So for example, I'm using Keynote right now, but if I use Keynote in full screen presentation mode, it really messes up all of my you know, ability to see everything. So I can't really present in Keynote. So I'm just using Keynote in non-presentation mode, but I don't want you to see all the other junk all around my screen. So I'm just showing you the portion of the screen that shows the slide, right? You can actually see, you know, I'm moving the screen around here, right? That I'm just showing you one little bit of it. In screen sharing, you've got these options, which you can get to from, I believe it's that little that little up arrow there. And in here, it's really important. This helps with preventing Zoom bombing. So if you're preparing for that, you want to make sure that the only host option is checked. You can always change it when you want somebody in the meeting to present. All right, onward. So there are 2 or 3 really important areas where there are a lot of controls in Zoom. And again, these are areas that when you're in a meeting, you might not just take the time to get the hang of them. So I want to make sure you get a chance to look at them real nice and slow and close now. Number 1 is the participants window. So when you're an organizer, that participants thing actually turns into manage participants. And clicking that brings you to this screen over here where you can see everybody who's in the meeting. And then the little more button at the bottom right corner brings you to these options. And these options are super critical, especially when you're in a big meeting full of strangers. And this is the other key to preventing Zoom bombing. Mute people on entry. Don't allow people to unmute themselves. Don't play the enter-exit chime. I already am going to have PTSD for life from that ding-dong sound. And allow participants to rename themselves. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And then when you have everybody in the meeting, presumably you could lock it. I'm not going to do that because people are probably going to jump in and out. And then enable waiting room. Enable waiting room is super great when you and your team need to prep for an event before it starts. You want to be able to get everyone in the Zoom meeting, test your cameras and microphones, find out that the host's microphone makes him sound like a robot before he starts his meeting. And then you can also, when you're ready to let everybody in, you disable the waiting room just by unchecking the box. You can also see that in this participants window, those little red circles are the recording icons to the right of the 3 of the top 4 people there, so you can see who's recording as well. Just a couple questions in the chat. Are these features only available in the paid version? Good question. I do not know because I've been on the paid version for a long time. I would just check the features and pricing on the website. I'm pretty sure that Zoom is pretty generous with most of these features. They just limit the amount of time you can use it. Casey's asking, if you don't allow people to unmute themselves, do you have to unmute them yourself in the breakout rooms? So this is one of the things that's kind of funny about Zoom, is that it just kind of does stuff for you, and it's weird about how it does it. So like when I put people in breakout rooms, Zoom knows well enough that everyone's going to be talking, so it actually changes the settings so people can talk once they're in the breakout rooms. Yeah, and then like it's funny because you have to get the hang of it, where if you bring everyone back in from the breakout rooms, it might mute everybody again. So that's part of why you have to kind of spend some time getting the hang of it, because there are little nuances to that. Does lock mean people can't leave the meeting or just can't join? I'm pretty sure it just means they can't join. I can't imagine they wouldn't stop you from leaving the meeting. One of my coworkers said we should lock the screen to prevent hackers from being able to listen in. Is that a thing? I don't know what lock the screen means, but I'm pretty sure it's everything I just explained to you prevents people from screen sharing. The main thing is preventing people from screen sharing, because that's where people can take over the whole screen. And like Zoom is kind of aggressive about when somebody screen shares, all of a sudden your whole screen goes full screen. That's when people get nasty. And Amy asked, where is the allow participants to record function, or is this only for co-hosts? You had us record and breakout. So you can set this up before the meeting starts. There are some settings you can create when you're scheduling the meeting. And one of those features is to allow people to record. Otherwise, I have the ability to do that here. Actually, this is the next slide, where I can go and pick which participants I can give recording power to with that little more button. This is also super handy for renaming people. And so this screen, again, the participants window gives you a lot of these tools. And so for example, last week, we had moderators who were kind of like super participants. We didn't make them co-hosts, but we gave them the ability to record so they could record their breakout rooms. As the host, I can only record what I'm seeing. I can't see what's going on in every breakout room. So that was our way of kind of addressing that need. Onward to advanced settings. This is the other area, right? We're talking about the most important places in Zoom. Participant window is one, advanced settings is the other, because this is where you can access lots of really, really important features. You can also get to this by through the preferences window in Zoom, but you can just go to this website to be able to do that. And in here are there are tons and tons of settings. I recommend you take the time and go play with each one of them, get the hang of each one of them, right? Especially like even just here, you can see schedule meeting. When I start a meeting, do I want everyone's video to be on? Do I want my video to be on? Personally, I don't like when the video starts immediately when I start a meeting. so I leave that off. Then I could just turn the video on when I'm ready. But I recommend, if you haven't done this already, you can search these pages as well, because it's a huge laundry list of stuff. I recommend turn on the co-host feature. It's really handy. There's no reason not to have it on. So just search co-host and turn it on. Turn on polling. We did polling before. It's a feature you might not have turned on, so just turn it on. And then it's there. It'll be on the little toolbar in the lower center. Lots of other handy little things in here. I want to also highlight, obviously, turn on breakout rooms. If you don't see breakout room options when you're the host, that's why. That one of the issues that we have in these things is like let's say if I'm co-hosting an event with somebody, if they're the host and they don't have these options turned on, they don't have the buttons to press, and then we have problems. So just this is where we can turn those things on. And you're gonna have to do it before you start the meeting. So if you mess this up, you have to like pop back out, pop back in again. And then I'm just gonna talk about some of the breakout rooms features. Breakout rooms is one of the most powerful features in Zoom. And it's scary because it's hard to use it until you've actually got people using it. It's part of why I recommend you do a test event. And you can do this with your friends and everybody can learn, right? But I'm gonna show you these screens now so you can really take your time with them. And I say this from experience. I've spent so much time like nervously rushing through these screens, and it really helps. Amber asked, once you set these things, does it stay as is or do I have to put it on with each meeting? Most of these settings pretty much stay the same once you've set them. Some of them reset, but it's pretty much everything I've showed you basically stays the way it is from one meeting to the next. So when you hit the breakout room button, it's going to show you something like this. And this screen makes us unnecessarily nervous. Zoom is great and it's designed really well, except at certain times it's kind of annoying. When it says create breakout rooms, you think as soon as I push that button, everyone's going to get thrown into a room. It doesn't. There's actually another screen before that happens. So we can take our time with this screen. So you can obviously see that you divide people up. There is a way to manually place people. You could even place people in breakout rooms in advance before the meeting even happens with a CSV file that you can upload in advance. The only catch there is that every participant has to have a Zoom account. So this works a lot better if you use the webinar feature where people register through Zoom, or if you know that you've got a team of people that all have an account. But I tend to just create the breakout rooms in the moment, rearrange people while the MC is talking. So when you hit that create breakout rooms button, you get a screen that looks like this on the left with a big list of people, and they're sorted by the room that they're gonna go in. And then at the bottom is one of the most important pieces of the whole breakout room setup is that options button at the bottom, because it hides all of these really important features. And once you start the breakout rooms, you can't come back to this, you can't change it, and you can't see what you set. And it's so annoying and it's scary. So you just have to make sure you get really solid on this before you hit the open all rooms button. So the first one, move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. If that's not checked, everyone has to push a button to join a room, which is kind of cool because then you know everyone's opting in, they won't be weirded out. But the people who aren't really paying attention or who don't have the screen up front, they're not going to push it, and then they're going to be stuck in limbo. Allowing participants to return to the main session at any time. This is important too. If I send you all into breakout rooms, which I'm going to do briefly later, I'm going to be just chilling in the lobby, and I'm going to basically be by myself while all of you are in your own rooms. While I'm in the lobby, if somebody leaves, they're going to come back in, and I'm going to see them. I'm going to say like, hey, what's up? Do you need help? Do you need me to put you in a different room? Whatever. Or if somebody joins our meeting in progress while people are in breakout rooms, I'll be able to send them in. Anyway, so I always give people an option to return to the main session, just because if something's going wrong, they can come back and help out. You can set a finite amount of time for the breakout rooms, and the countdown is a super handy feature. Really love that. I recommend putting it on for 60 seconds. It just gives everyone a chance to wrap up. And then when you hit open all rooms, that's when all the rooms go off and people get created. In that screen, you can also move people to different breakout rooms. Super handy. So like you see where it says unassigned, that's somebody who joined the meeting after I already created the rooms. So lots more that we can get into there. Once people are in the breakout rooms, they're all going to have their own chat areas. You won't be able to see them or chat with them. They will be able to chat with you as the host. But basically each room becomes its own little breakout room. How am I doing on Zoom things so far? There are so many more things I want to talk about, but I just want to give you kind of a good taste of it for now. Oh, you know what? I didn't get to make a screen for this, but yeah, I don't have a good screenshot for this. But when you have already created your breakout rooms, there is going to be another feature in that breakout rooms button on the bottom that's going to say broadcast a message. And you can actually type in a little message. It's super basic, but you can type in a little message and push it, and it will show a little green bar at the top of the screen and everybody in the breakout room. So I could say something like, hey, everybody, 5 minutes left, time to rotate speakers or whatever. And then everyone will see that at the top of their screen. Just a handy little thing. That's also how they're going to see how much time they have left when you hit the close room button. So again, that last little screen has been really important because let's say I rushed through that screen and I forgot whether I checked that last box to give people 60 seconds. If I know that they have 1 minute left and then I hit the close room button, if that thing wasn't checked, they'll just get kicked back right away. And then they're like, oops, you know, and there's no way to undo it. So you just want to make sure you take your time with that feature. Whew. All right, I'm talking a lot. How am I doing? How are we doing? Oh, it's nice to see some familiar faces that popped in. Hello, Sam. Hello, Catherine. All right, any questions in the chat so far on Zoom tools? By the way, y'all have been coming up with some excellent questions and definitely some things that we could follow up on in more detail later, but thank you for all of your great questions. All right, all of y'all are smiling. Nobody's asking me more questions. I'm gonna keep it moving into facilitation techniques. And in the middle of that, we will do some interactive fun stuff as well. All right, so let me pull up my screen again and onward to facilitation techniques. So we're going to talk about a couple of things that I've already done in the meeting, but just to recap, there are two things that you can play with when it comes to when the meeting is starting. There's the official Zoom waiting room, which again is a feature you have to enable before the meeting starts. And it's actually something you can turn on from the participant screen under that little more thing in the corner. And actually, I'll try to pull that up right now so you can see it. Here, you can see enable waiting room is in that last option, right, under more. So again, enable waiting room when you start the meeting. Everyone gets stuck in there. I can test stuff out. But there's a cooler thing than the waiting room. And by the way, the waiting room lets you put up a logo and some text. The logo can even be a GIF, so you can do some fun things with waiting room. I like to think of the post waiting room. I think this is really valuable. Some of you who joined in time saw this. I put up a slide and I screen share it and I put on some background music. But what's nice about it is that it lets people enter the meeting, test out their camera, jump into the chat, introduce themselves. And there's a little bit of music and a little bit of presentation. This helps with that weird time between when your meeting's supposed to start and the few minutes it takes for everybody to get in. Because you don't really want to start the meeting when people are still shuffling in, but you don't want the people who showed up on time to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs wondering what to do. It's an awkward time. So we want to try to account for that awkward time as best as we can. Throwing up a slide, getting people warmed up in the chat, great way to buy yourself a few minutes, right? And so like I used this for a presentation we did last week. It's pretty, I actually whipped this up too fast and the text is too small. So I would use a different slide as I did for today. Casey asked, how many minutes do you allow for the post waiting room? I'm gonna say 2 to 4. You can also suss this out based on how many you're expecting. So if you're expecting 100 people, there's 20 people there, give it a few more minutes. If you're expecting 100 people, there's 99 people there, start the meeting. Use your judgment, but I would say just give it a few. And then when you start, of course, take a breath, make sure you get yourself centered and get other people warmed up and welcomed in the room, personally kind of calling out people, saying hello. Everybody was on mute when we started this meeting. I actually feel like it would have been better if we gave people a chance to chat a little bit when we started this meeting, but all good. And we want to set their expectations about what's going to happen, how long it's going to take, any hard stops people have, put them in the chat, that kind of thing. Let people know there's going to be interactive stuff. People put on a Zoom meeting, they expect that they're going to be able to mess around on other stuff working. So just make sure you give people a heads up that, hey, you know, we know everybody's distracted, but, you know, we're going to need you to actually pay attention and do some stuff soon. And then the recording and privacy, which we talked about. Great to do up front. Then we get into the main content. And the main content, I think it's so important that we get people interacting with each other, creating connection and value between each other. We don't just want one person broadcasting the whole time. This one is mostly lecture because I just have a lot to tell you, but we are going to have some time for Q&A later. We are going to do an interactive exercise in a moment. So we'll get into the specifics of this, but the more that we can actually create some purposeful facilitation to the main content of the program, the better. It's just going to make a real difference compared to all the other stuff we're seeing out there. Breakout rooms. When you're going to put people in breakout rooms, get them ready for the fact that they're going to go into a breakout room. If you've ever been in one, you know when you move over into one, it's an awkward thing because you go from being semi-anonymous in this big plenary space to suddenly being in a much smaller room, sometimes with one other person. And it's like, whoa, hey, okay, hello. I'm now face-to-face with maybe a stranger, and we got to figure out how to talk to each other. So warm people up to this fact. And when I do it, I try to give people this sense of like, all right, everybody, you know, like shake it out. All right, here we go. Ready, 3, 2, 1, and like we jump into it, right? So just give people a little bit of warm up. And then give people, when they come out of the breakout room, have some anticipated way of giving people a way to share what they took away from that experience. You could have people raise their hand, or you could have designated moderators like we had at the event last week. And so let's try it. Should we try it? Yeah. I'm gonna do a little interactive exercise right now. So get yourselves ready. And I'm gonna ask you to share your favorite tool or hack to stay sane during the quarantine. Person with the longest hair will go first. Just introduce yourself real quick, name, location, company. 1 minute per person, 1 minute for discussion. We're gonna do small groups of people, and you're gonna discuss with each other, and then we're gonna come back. How's that sound? Yeah, we're good? All right. So we've got 53 participants. I'm going to have it be where we have about 3 to 4 participants per room. And I'm setting the options now. I'm going to set a countdown timer for 60 seconds. I'm going to move you all in automatically. I'm going to let you come back at any time. Everybody ready to go? All right. All right, ready. Take a deep breath. You're about to be in a room full of strangers. Person with longest hair goes first. Name, city, and what your work is, and then your best hack. You're going to have 1 minute each. Somebody keep an eye on the clock, and off we go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, very good. I'm just going to send a 1 minute warning to everybody else. All right, so everyone will rejoin us in just a minute. Rob, so nice to see you in your beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, good place. Dog's here. Dog says hey.
Very good. How was your discussion?
Good, good. People from all over the place. Got Iowa, Austin, New York. You know.
Love it. Love it. All right. Hello. Welcome back. All right. You know what? We're just going to start while everybody's transitioning back in here. Who has an awesome thing that they just learned about that they didn't know about before? But raise your hand if you want to share. Who has an awesome thing that they shared about that they're really proud of? Who had a terrible time? All right, we've got folks transitioning back in, and all rooms will be closed in 4 seconds, so we'll get everybody back in here shortly. And hello, 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 welcome back, welcome back. Oh my goodness, to see smiling faces. I want to shout out some of the folks, by the way, who have created some great things that have helped me create some of these things that you're getting today. First of all, the fine folks at Cave Day who do online co-working sessions. They've done some great little facilitated activities that you see here. Jillian and Ezra from the Joy List. We do Joy List socials a couple of times a month, and there's all kinds of fun things. And my guy, Nick Gray, who has given me some awesome techniques when hosting his cocktail parties. And we're adapting those to online interactions as well. So shouts to Nick, who is here and smiling in Florida. Good to see you, Nick. All right, so how do we do in the breakout rooms? Did anybody learn something new that they are excited to share with the group? And if you can raise your hand or pop it in the chat. Did nobody learn anything new at all? I see smiling faces. Don't make me call on one person. Who has something to share? Dirk. Amy's nominating Dirk. Dirk, what you got for us?
So my hack was setting a timer every hour to do 5 minutes of stretches.
Nice. Very good. Do you have any particular stretches that are that have been designed to be friendly for being stuck at home?
Yeah, I do a hip opener, something that opens your hips, something that stretches your hamstrings, and something that releases your neck muscles. Whatever you find about that, it's been good for me.
Nice. Very good. Thank you, Dirk. All right. Jacqueline, you mentioned that your group loves going outside. Do you want to just share a quick bit about that?
Yes, can you hear me?
Got you.
Oh, sweet. Yes, my group said that they like go. Two of my people are near bike paths and hiking areas. I live in Brooklyn, so I don't have that. But the New York City Parks Department has started putting up interactive activities that will take you virtually into the park. So I think those are very valuable.
Wow, I did not know about that. Do you have a link handy?
I can look it up. I can look it up.
Yeah, thanks. And Amber mentioned the next 90 days planner. So let me see if I can find you, Amber, and unmute you. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. In our group, one of the participants, that's what they were using was my next 90-day planner. And it was so interesting to see it because it was more than just, yeah, exactly. It was just more than just an agenda. You know, there's like more to it. I love it. I will be buying that.
Super neat. All right. Anything else anybody has to share that they're excited about? We got a lot of pluses for the planner. Very good. All right. Great. Well, thanks for that. I'm going to do one last round of sharing just a couple more slides, and then we will get into open Q&A. We'll talk about any old topic that you want while we get to the end of this. And give me just 1 second to get this screen share working. Oh man, that push screen thing is tricky. Tricky. All right. Gonna get back up. And great. All right, y'all are seeing my slides again, yeah? Very good. All right. So, discussion topics. There's lots of things in breakout rooms that you can give people to do. I want to try to focus on stuff that's going to get people touching on something that is meaningful and personal. So obviously this is going to vary completely widely based on the audience and the context of the program that you're putting together. But regardless of what that context is, we want to try to give people reasons to open up a little bit about something that's meaningful to them. So depending on how much time you have, depending on a lot of different factors, you want to just try to come up with something that's going to give people a way to connect. If it's your team, if you're trying to do a team happy hour, something like that, the more that people can learn about each other, the better. And one of the things that I didn't get to talk as much about, but you saw in the way that we shared the mugs in the beginning, is creating a sense of space. So because we can't all be in the same place, we can take advantage of the fact that we are in these places. And many of us are in our homes. Our homes are filled with personal items that we can share all kinds of fun stories about. And we can really learn a lot of insights about our worlds for those of us who are in our homes. I want to just say, yeah, so Amber mentioned she's not liking going into full screen mode when you share a screen. Me neither. When I get put into full screen mode, I immediately move out of it. You can go into the top center of your screen and there's an option to exit full screen mode. So I highly recommend that you do that whenever you get put into screen share. So the other thing, so there's just to talk about a few of the activities you can do. I'm a huge fan of scavenger hunt. We did kind of a very lightweight version of it with the mugs when we started. But I love when we add a twist, like if you ask people to find something green or ask people to find something personally meaningful. Finding something personally meaningful is really, really great. You get all kinds of good personal stories. Or finding something that's old. Finding something that's old really helps a lot. Melissa is recommending Cards for Connection, a cool project that you can buy online. Melissa, you want to just mention it while I unmuted you? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's actually made from a lady in Austin who used to work out of a co-working space out of Somavita in Austin, Texas. And it's kind of like Cards for Humanity, except for they're Cards for Connection. And so they have these really cool questions on there that you can ask other participants, and it just kind of opens up, authentic connection.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff coming out now for these kinds of things. I'll share a few of the things I found as well. Thanks, Melissa. Something that Nick has done is cocktail parties and find people at Cave Day do at their co-working meetings. Any kind of activity that gets people to do things with their bodies and then imitate each other. So something like a coordinated power move, super handy. If you've got a group of people that are comfortable with doing this, love dance party type stuff. Get people moving, get their blood pumping. And then you can use the music sharing feature for this. As we showed earlier, the screen sharing could be not screen, but just audio. So that's super handy for this. And then using the spotlight feature as a Jumbotron is so cool. It's really, really great to give people the rotating opportunity to show off their dance moves in front of everybody. You can also do this for PowerPoint karaoke, which I love, where you just, and you can find templates for this online, but you get like a dummy slide deck, and then you get people who have to present it as if they were presenting a real presentation, and they have to like improv it, and it's ridiculous and it's super fun. And then entrepreneurial improv theater, which is another level where you actually get people to form teams and pitch a fake startup. And so you can use the breakout rooms for them to work on their startup together, and then come back to the plenary session to pitch their crazy, awful startup idea. Super, super fun. I've done this in real life at bar camps, and it's the best. For various needs, various reasons, using a shared Google Doc or Google spreadsheet and giving everyone access to it during the meeting is incredibly cool. So if you're compiling resources or compiling ideas for something, you can actually screen share, send everyone the link to the document, make sure that the document is publicly editable before you send the link, because that's been screwed up before and it creates all kinds of headaches. But then you get to see everybody frantically filling out this sheet and adding all their information in real time. And it is the coolest thing to watch. And so I highly recommend that, depending on what you're trying to do. If you see value in compiling information live together, it just creates a really cool experience. And when we've done this, we've actually shared audio while we're doing it as well. So there's like a little bit of background music, and we have to kind of call out stuff we're seeing. Lately on the social gathering side, one of the best things that I found for just total fun time with friends, works for happy hour too, is Jackbox Games. Jackbox Games is amazing. It's premium packs of games that you can play on the computer. It's meant to be played locally on the computer, but anybody can play using their phone as the game device. So basically, if you screen share the game on your computer, you pay for the game, you screen share it on your computer, and then everyone takes out their phone and they use the phone as like their buzzer where they enter their responses. It works really, really, really well. They have like 6 different packs of games, and it's so fun. So there's all different kinds of games you can play, and it's just super, super useful. So highly recommend Jackbox Games. I'm going to jump into some crazier stuff just before we wrap up and get into conversation. So we know about virtual backgrounds. You can create custom virtual backgrounds. I would love to do this for a larger event, like a conference, where we actually give people our own custom-made backgrounds that they can use for our event. So you could brand that, or you could theme that. You could have color coding. You could do all kinds of fun games around like what you put up as your virtual background. And if you don't know already, Snap, which makes Snapchat, released their software that they use to do their filters, so that you can do it on your computer for any meeting. So I could actually, I'm not going to do it now because I'm doing too much other stuff, but I could actually switch to a camera and use Snapchat filters, and you can create your own Snapchat filters. So again, if you have a budget for a bigger conference, you can actually create custom filters everyone can use. Multi-camera setups, I'm really excited to play with this. I could have other devices signed into Zoom and then feature them during the meeting. So if I'm trying to create space, if let's say I was going to do a musical performance, I'm not, I could have a whole guitar set up with my phone logged into Zoom, pointed at my guitar setup over in the other space, and then I could just switch cameras to over there and walk over and show up in the other camera. Bingo bango, right? Super useful stuff. And then physical packages, I can't wait to play with this more, but the fact that we're all stuck in our homes doesn't mean we can't have physicality. So if you have I would do this for a larger event, bigger scale, bigger budget, but you could even do this with simple, like mailing people letters. If you can have people open packages and those packages maybe contain things they can't look at until the event starts, you're just going to create an incredible sense of wonder, incredible sense of connection. When everyone is surprised to open a package and there's like a little toy in it, and then everybody knows, like they're all learning about it at the same time and they get to do something with it, right? And now you have an artifact, so that's going to stay even after the event's over. All kinds of handy things. That's it. That's my slides. Oh my goodness, 50 slides, 51 slides. Thank you for getting through all of that with me. And most of y'all are still here, so I guess I've kept your attention. Yay. How are we doing? What is interesting? What have you learned today that you're excited to play with? What questions do you still have? And you know what? I'm going to give you the ability to, you can unmute yourself. So fire away. Amber's asking about the difference between Pro and Enterprise. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm assuming that Enterprise gives you some more features that are kind of organizational specific, but I'd recommend, check out the docs on that. Other questions? Any tips on getting the virtual background to work better? Solid background really helps. So if I wanted to get serious about it, I take down the art behind me, and bright light helps. And if you're doing two people, if you have two people side by side, virtual background doesn't really know how to do it, but if you put them, if two people are really close to each other in the same general depth of field, that will help a lot. Like if I have somebody sitting back here, they're gonna look like they're coming from outer space. Nick loves the tip about games. Yeah, Jackbox.tv. And again, it's 6 packs. It's not that expensive. I am getting a question about karaoke. There's always a delay. So great question about how do you deal with something like the audio lag issue for karaoke or for playing music or something together. And what I recommend is that we err on the side of being judicious about use of the microphone. And so what I would probably do with karaoke is have my music being broadcast, so it's kind of the canonical like beat, and then I would probably just rotate who gets to be unmuted. And so I would just unmute people. Maybe I would even randomly unmute people so that you only hear maybe one person at a time. I have done karaoke where everyone's unmuted. It's a disaster because it just does not work. We do not synchronize. So I try to rotate who gets to have that. All right, we're into other questions. How many moderators do you recommend for bigger groups and breakouts? So you can plan this in advance in terms of the number of people per room. So for example, last week, we expected about 100, a little over 100. And we played with the idea of having about 20 per room. We figured 15 to 25 for a long discussion, maybe 20, 30 minute discussion. And in that manner, you're trying to just get a vibe for what the right size is based on the nature of the discussion and the time. In a breakout room with a large group, you're not going to necessarily have everybody talk, so you could have a larger group, but you don't want so many people that you feel like nobody has a chance to talk. But you know, everybody's still kind of figuring that out. I would say that we can more or less map to real life interactions. So you know, if an interaction worked in real life for 20 people, you can more or less map it that it's going to go similarly in this kind of size. We got some people jumping off. Thanks for joining. Can co-host groups freely travel between breakout rooms? Great question. Yes, they can, but it is tricky. They may not know how they can do it, but when you're in a breakout room, there's a button down below. You can hit it, and then as a co-host, you can hover over one of the other breakout rooms and move to that room as a co-host. Otherwise, the participants themselves do not have control over this. However, just for like randomness sake, there's all kinds of weird little features that I'm learning about. If someone leaves a breakout room and now they're back in the plenary space with us and they want to go back in, they have the option to rejoin the room. The button down below says breakout rooms, and then they'll have a button to rejoin the room. And so they may not know it, but like maybe if they come back out and say they want to be put in a different room, I'll put them in a different room, but they have to know to go and look for that button to rejoin that other room. It's a little bit weird, but just so you know, that's how that works. Oh, and then there was, Felicity asked how many moderators for bigger groups, breakouts. 1 per room is good as a minimum, but as I think we kind of got a taste of last week, it really helps if you have 2 per room as a backup, because if the other person has a connection issue or any other kind of issue, you got somebody else who's the backup there. You could also have the moderator nominate like a second moderator once you get in the room. We have a question about sign language in big groups, head nod, thumbs up, etc. Anything more advanced? I would say that what I've seen so far, obviously just physically raising your hand is great for when people want to talk, as opposed to leaving everyone to say it out loud because it gets messy. I love snaps or like hand kind of wiggles for when somebody's doing something great. We want to be able to show people live feedback when they're doing something that we love without messing with the audio. The fact that the audio is all squeezed through this little pipe and you can really only hear one person at a time is a constraint we just have to design for. So the least amount of audio taxing that we do amongst, you know, people making sound at the same time, the better. Beyond more specific, I don't know. I'm interested to think about like what the other more advanced sign language things we can do are. I will say that there are features in the participants window. You have to turn them on in those advanced settings to have people have the option for, I'm just like flipping these on the participant screen now, but like yes, no, go slower, go faster, thumbs up, wave, coffee. So there are all kinds of things you can do there. And I think those work a little bit better for like teams when they're having longer meetings, but you could totally tell your participants to use those features and you could probably have a lot of fun with those. What else we got here? I've seen a Q&A feature on Zoom webinars. Why isn't there one here? Is that a, you know, I think that is actually a webinar setting now that you mentioned. I knew there was one other like really juicy webinar setting. And I think that might be it, is that it lets you create Q&As. But I'll have to double check on that one. I had the question about how can we set up the lobby or the post waiting room. So when you are, before you've started the meeting, you can create, when you're creating the meeting, you can mess with the preferences for waiting room and the different features that you can put into it. And some of those things may be in the advanced features area. So you might have to just hop into there. And then the post waiting room is your own creation. So that's a screen share, but I would create a slide using whatever graphic whatever, and then you open up that window and then screen share just that window with some background music. So that's all you do. Dirk, thanks, glad you enjoyed. Thanks for coming. Are there any limit of polls that we can do for each meeting? I don't know. You can create multiple polls in advance and they're all queued up and ready to go when you want to pull them up. I can't imagine that you're going to hit that limit unless you ask like a ton of polls. But the poll feature is pretty rudimentary. So again, just take your time with it. Are poll results saved? I don't know. Y'all are asking awesome questions, and I appreciate that. I hate being stumped, but this is also my first workshop. So I recommend, when in doubt, screenshot profusely. And also make sure, I forget where the settings are, but make sure you have a setting set to automatically save all your chats. Because once you leave, if you're not saving the chats are gone. And yeah, Jen is saying, I don't think poll results are saved. I agree. Cool. All right. Anything else? We're down to the last 2 minutes. Isn't that crazy? All right. Steve, I'm glad that you're enjoying this. Wow. All right. I have to say, I was a little bit nervous. It's the first time I've given a workshop on this, and a paid workshop at that. I'm very grateful all of you took a chance on this workshop. I'm excited for you to just go out and do good things. This medium is an exciting medium. We could do a lot of fun things with it. And I want us to think of it that way. I want us to have fun with this medium and try to focus on the humanity of the people. And I think that's going to make a big difference. We're all people. We're all going through crazy stuff right now. And so the more that we can account for that and just be nice and be gentle with each other, the better things are going to get. Please let me know what cool things you do. I'm hopefully going to be doing more workshops, diving deeper into some of these things. I'm going to be doing experiments in online gatherings, so I want to collaborate with all of you on that as well. My email is tony@nwc.co. Thank you in the chat for reminding me to ask. And you can check out my website. And thanks to all of you who joined, who are waving goodbye. You're all wonderful. And yeah, what else? Let's do one last high five before we call it a day. All right, smiles, wave. 1, 2, 3, high five. Thanks, everybody. All right, take care.